Hi, welcome to the Secrets to Seed Beads Appendix A. I've just completed a 10-part series of great seed bead projects and techniques that you can check out at firemountaingems.com. But somebody asked me about the tools I chose to use, so I thought, well, we have to do one more video, the tools. I'm going to show you all the tools I used and why I chose them. First of all, when you're doing seed bead, you need a needle, you need some beads, and you need some thread. And that's really all you need. Now, the other stuff is great to have and it'll sure make your seed beading experience more fun. So I'm going to show you all the stuff. Well, maybe not all, but a lot of the stuff. First of all, the beads you choose. The most common types of beads are cylinders and rounds. Now, you choose different beads for different projects. This project, I used round beads because I needed it to be fluid and flexible, and the round beads slide past each other more easily than the other type of bead you see all the time, which are cylinder beads. Now, this project here, I wanted cylinder beads because I wanted a sort of a technological look. I wanted a crisp, clean, almost factory-made look, whereas this one, I wanted that fluidity and that handmade look. So you decide what you're making, what type of bead works best for you. Next, I'm going to talk about needles. Every beader has their favorite needle. You can use what you like. I just wanted to show you some ideas. These are probably my favorite. These come in a little plastic vial of needles, and they're really cool. But I use these. I use all of them. The point is to pick out a beading needle. The key point there is that beading needles are designed with a very, very, very small eye hole so that they can go through seed beads very easily. I know a lot of people who have problems with threading needles. So your options are to use a needle threader, get really good at threading needles, or you could use a wide-eyed needle. The wide-eyed needle is literally the whole needle is an eye. So the entire length of the needle is an eye all the way down to the other end. In fact, it's double-ended even. So that's a very cool little gizmo for people who have trouble threading needles. Let go of it, it's down to one single needle. Speaking of needles, we got to talk about thread. Now, the most popular and probably been around the longest is Nymo. It's a great nylon thread, comes in lots and lots of colors and lots of diameters. It's been around a long time. It works great, and I use it fairly frequently. But my absolute favorite is the Fireline. This is a twisted, bonded nylon that's actually came from the fishing industry, so it is super strong and not too stretchy. And that's the kind of thing you're looking for in a seed bead thread, is strong, but not too stretchy, because that could really mess with your tension on your designs. Lots of people like other threads, and that's okay. Pick the one that works for you. Sometimes what I use is whatever I've got. That's what I use for my seed bead thread. This one, I will say, it only comes in a couple of different diameters. I like the crystal, but I think the black, the smoke, disappears into your design really, really well. The problem with the smoke is that this color does tend to come off on your seed beads, on your hands when you're working it. So for instance, like I run my finger across that thread, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but I've got black lines on my finger now. It can get to an annoying level, especially on your beads themselves. So what I do is to condition the thread before I work on my project. I use some alcohol, and I just wipe the alcohol across my thread before I use it, and that takes off that excess smoke color so I don't get it all over my beads. But don't worry, even if you did get on your beads, alcohol takes it off really well, and off your fingers as well. But speaking of conditioning, that's not all. Fireline, I don't usually have to condition except to take the excess color off. But some of the other beading threads, I use a conditioner like wax or beeswax or what's the other thing I use? Thread Heaven, something like that. And again, I run the thread over through the beeswax. It puts a little coating of wax on the thread, makes it slide through your beads a little easier, and also keeps it from fraying. It'll make your thread survive longer if you're making multiple passes through the same bead over and over and over and over. Good conditioner. I don't usually have to use conditioner, but I do sometimes. Again, I'm giving you all the tools. Whether you use them or not, really all you need are the beads, the thread, and the needle. But also, how do we cut that thread? Oh, yeah, I tried scissors. I'm telling you, scissors do not really work on Fireline. They don't. You can try and cut Fireline with scissors and you might get some success, but you're probably going to have a pretty raggedy edge on it too. I need to use some kind of nipper. Mostly I use my little Lindstrom nipplers that are actually made for cutting metal, but that's okay. It works great on Fireline. And if you don't have any nifty nippers, use a fingernail clipper. Works great, better than scissors. Okay, so now we've got needle, we've got thread, we've got the beads. Let's talk about the more extraneous things that are important, but you don't have to have them. The surface you're working on. Lots of good stuff to work on. This is a little neoprene mat. I love this because it's got a little bit of cush to it. But my favorite is a little velour mat. Could be felt, could be velvet, could be fleece, something like that. It's got a little more cush to it. Makes it easy to pick up your seed beads with your needle on this type of cushy mat. We also have those neoprene mats available at Fire Mountain Gems in this big size. I can't show it all, but I'll show you kind of what it looks like. It's really nice size. This is the mat I keep at my beading work surface at home and here at work. Because it confines my space a little bit so I don't spread out all over the whole dining room table. So I like this mat a lot. I might take that mat and then put my other little seed bead mat over the top of it, but I do like that mat. Okay, we got our surface light. Light's super important too. Pick a bright light. I like to use some kind of a daylight lamp. Several available at Fire Mountain Gems and Beads. Full spectrum daylight lamp. It doesn't need to cover a wide space. When you're working with seed beads, half the time you're only working in a space this big. So you don't need a huge lamp, but you need a good bright one. And I don't know if this is the order I planned it in, but we also have to think of light. We've got to think about vision. When I started here, somebody showed me a vial of number 11 delicas, and I said, what? You're going to string those on thread? I can't even see them. They're like dust. I didn't realize how bad my eyes were. And I realized I needed glasses, as most people do. Whether you know it or not, when you get into seed beads, you're going to find out if your glasses are strong enough or not. If they're not strong enough, add on some magnifiers. I get so many compliments. Compliments? I don't know if it's compliments or just comments on magnifiers from our live audience. When they see me wearing my little magnifiers, they think that's pretty hilarious. These come in a variety of powers. Pick the one that works for you. I recently graduated from a 2X to a 3X. So, oh, you know, maturity happens to us all. These clip right on my glasses, so they're super convenient for me. And when I don't need that super magnification, like I'm just walking over to the copy machine, I just flip them up out of my way and I can just use my normal vision. We also have other kinds of magnifiers that work like without your glasses, that they're a single unit on their own. They just slip over your head like a headband. So there's lots of magnification available at Fire Mountain Gems. And believe me, when you get to those size 15 seed beads, chances are you're going to want them. Put those back on my face so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, light, magnification. Oh, and if we're going to be seed beading, we need to create patterns. So this is I think one of the coolest things that Fire Mountain has. These totally free downloadable seed bead graph papers that are available. Pick the pattern you're going to be doing, whether it's peyote or brick stitch or right angle weave, whatever. We've got the graph paper for it at firemountaingems.com. Download it and start making your pattern. And for that, I like my colored pencils. And once I've made a pattern, ta-da! Oh, gee, that looks familiar. That's that bracelet we had out here earlier. Once I've made my pattern, then it's time to start creating the design. So I slip it into a sheet protector. So then I've got my pattern. I can use a permanent marker to say, oh, I finished that row. Okay, done. And just mark it off. And don't worry that you're ruining your pattern. It slips out of the sheet protector. Don't worry that you're ruining your sheet protector because you just clean that off with some alcohol. Ta-da! Cool thing. Speaking of patterns, again, more tools that I use. Oh gosh, you don't need these things, but they are so handy. A ruler and a calculator. Very important because let's say I'm making a pattern and I'm using this paper. Well, this paper is only one size. It doesn't account for the size 11s and the size 8s and the size 6s. So I might need to say, well, I want to make it 15 beads long. How long is that going to be in real life? So I might have to take actually 15 beads and measure them and do some calculations and figure out that the center of my pattern is going to be here. And so, yeah, don't let your kids fool you. You will be doing math. You know, I did too. When am I ever going to use this stuff? Well, you know what? I use math every day, just so you know. It's a valuable skill. Okay, so we've got graph paper, we've got colored pencils, we've got all this cool stuff that's nice to have but not essential. We're getting down, oh, you know what I forgot? When I mentioned the nippers for cutting your thread, the thread burner, that's an important one too. In fact, I don't use the nippers as much as I use the thread burner when I'm cutting threads, because what this does is this tip heats up. You push the little button, the tip heats up, and it gets hot enough to literally melt through your thread. And since it's melting through the thread, it's also making a little melted dot on the end of your thread that helps keep your knots from coming unknotted. So I love the thread burner. I use it a lot. Okay, that's really the big, most important stuff. But I want to show you some of the less important stuff. For instance, say you want to do a loom piece. You're going to want a loom. Now, this happens to be one of my favorites. The cool thing is that this loom expands. Check it out. Oh, there we go. Nice big loom for doing a seed bead project like this one on. In fact, this is the loom I made this seed bead project on. It's got really nice deep teeth here in the warp coils, so you can the threads won't pop out. It's super adjustable. All these knobs turn, and yes, it is a plastic loom, but all the parts that are threaded like this, these are all metal. So it's a nice sturdy loom as well. So love that loom. And while we're speaking of looms, this is the only finding I'm going to share with you today, because you can use whatever findings you want for your seed beads. But I love these tubes for anything that's loomed. This is a slide end tube, and all you do is once you've loomed something, you just slide the last row of beads into this tube. There's a slot here. Slide that last row of beads through that slot, fold up the end, and you've got a finished piece like that. Well, I think I have covered all of my cool tools that I have for you. Remember, these are awfully cool tools, but you don't really have to have them. All you really need is your creativity, needle, thread, beads. Well, thank you for joining me for the Secrets of Seed Bead Appendix A. And I hope you've enjoyed the whole 10-part series, Secrets to Seed Beads, that is just project and project and project and techniques for you to learn. We had a great time bringing them to you. And make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is Rose. Happy beading.